Hello guys, it's Ammonia Void here again. I'm here with my sixth episode on solo traveling. It's been a while now because I have been actually traveling. That's why I decided to make the theme of today's episode on on this on this thing because it's been on my mind and it's been part of my life, especially since 2025, actually 2024 too, but this beginning of the year has been quite intense. And to just keep it still recent, I will keep referring to my latest trip to Brazil, with which happened like a few weeks ago throughout February. And when you travel, it's one thing if you go just for pleasure, and it's another thing to go as an artist with the intention to make new work, and especially traveling alone and as a woman, just another layer. So I just wanted to talk about what to do, what not to do, what are my tips, what are things that I kind of learned on the way. So I hope you will find this episode useful if you're planning some trips this year, even though if it's far or close. So I think one of the first things that I do before going anywhere is I just check my network on Instagram or elsewhere if I know people from the place or close to the place where I'm going, to just kind of activate things happening. Because I don't like to plan exactly what I'm gonna do, because I just want the things to flow naturally, and I just need to find people to get in touch with, so they can either connect me with somebody else, or that they can think of places where I could go, what I could photograph. So this is something that I always do, and somehow it really works for me because all the people, they either know my work or they know me as a person, so they usually pick something that I really like or that is very relevant for my work. So before I went to Brazil, I reached out to some photographers, and one friend of mine who is not actually based in Salvador where I was staying, he gave me like a list of instructions of what to do and what not to do, and it was so helpful because you know every time you go to a different place, especially across continent, there's going to be cultural differences, there's going to be spatial differences on how you move through the space. And these instructions I actually wrote them on a paper, and I was going by them the entire trip because for instance, in Europe it's very rare that you would think about your body language on the street, or that you would not take out your phone at all. And there was something that was completely different in Brazil, that I have never seen people actually using their phones on the street, because there was high crime rate for stealing phones. So people just adjusted towards this. Or I don't know. One of the instructions was also not to wear any jewelry or brand clothes. Just to stay safe, and all these things that local people recommend you. It's true because they know this based on experience. So this is for sure like one of the first few steps that are good to do before you go anywhere. And it's not only in terms of safety, but also because local people can always recommend you the good places. I always ask, what are your favorite spots for food? What are your favorite spots in the city? Where do you like to go? Where do you like to meet people? And I always go there regardless. I don't know if it's the music that I listen to or not. I just think that all these lists online, like these tourist lists, they don't actually tell you or make you know a place. You get to know a place through the people who actually live there and know how to enjoy it the most. So meeting different people, I always try to say yes to everything. If somebody says, oh, you want to join us for food here? Yes, sure. You want to go to this concert? Yeah. I just say yes to everything and just see what happens. And it really rarely happens that I would be disappointed. It's usually the opposite. I'm very excited, or I see something that would never end up on my list, or something that I would never find in these recommendations on the internet. So number one, always connect with the locals, check the cultural differences, read a little bit about the place so you know where you're going, and prepare yourself mentally and physically for this experience. I think there's a lot of benefits of traveling solo, um, especially I think for making new work, because um, even though I love traveling with friends or with other people, when you travel alone, you are more open to energies. Your senses are more alert, and already by being on the plane, your mind is in this kind of hunter primal mode, because you feel like it's maybe dangerous to go by yourself, so you get into this like different state of mind. Whereas if you go, let's say, with friends, you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have fun memories together, and you already have a set plan of what's gonna happen. And when I'm alone, I just, it's also about compromising. If you travel in a group, or if you travel with I don't know, one person, it's about finding certain compromise of what both of you want to do. And I think that is one of the biggest benefits traveling solo, is that you don't have to compromise with anybody. You can just decide spontaneously. You can do whatever you want, however you feel. If you feel tired, you just go home. You don't feel this pressure, so you can do whatever you want. And also you are more open to energies, so when you want to make new work, you are alert to other people, to new impressions, to new situations. You're more observant, and at the same time, again, it works in a reversal way, or reverse way, that people are curious, why are you alone, why are you traveling by yourself, and they are more inclined to also talk to you and make you join them, especially in like, let's say, really warm, not only climate warm, but like personality warm countries, like Brazil. It was very easy to connect with people and become friends. People there are very, very open and very hospitable and welcoming. So it's only going towards your benefit to, again, get to know a place through the people who live there, who can take you along, even though you might um, not be able to understand each other completely in the same language, because yeah, of course, it's not good to expect that everybody speaks English. So so you have to try to connect in a different way than through language, and that is a fun challenge too, for sure. And for artistic vision, it's so nice to go to a new environment, especially if there's like a creative block, or if you are bored of the environment where you are in, you don't get inspired. I mean, I live in Amsterdam, and I barely photograph here. It's like my base, and for me to make new work, I always have to change environment, because here I no longer notice things. I just pass by them. But when I go somewhere else, my mind is already activated. Yes, I want to see, explore, dive into this new place, and you get inspired when you see new things, of course. And the beauty is also in spontaneity, because once you already go somewhere, you are more inclined to do spontaneous stuff, because and in your base, in your home, you have a certain routine that you follow, and it's harder to step outside of that routine. Or maybe it's easier to also stay within a comfort zone. I mean, already the fact that you travel to a different country is stepping outside of a comfort zone. So why not push it even further, right? And I think also another factor is that new places, um, it's like a new sensory overload, but in a positive way. Um, so your senses get activated in the sense that you notice the difference in colors, you notice the difference in sound, you notice the difference in how the city is structured. There, each city has a certain rhythm, certain aesthetic. So the nice thing about this is that you reflect these new influences also in your work. So it changes a little bit while you keep your signature, of course, but um, maybe you find a new direction for your work because you see, oh wow, now colors really work in a different way for my photographs and or paintings or whatever it is, and then you can discover something new that's gonna shape the next steps of your project or of your signature. For me, like I try to challenge myself with this trip to Brazil, to take mostly color film because I feel way more confident in black and white, and um, I tend to see things in black and white, even though I'm a really positive person. But in terms of aesthetics, I always switch to black and white, and I thought Brazil is such a colorful, beautiful place. Why should I just do black and white? And so I try to step out of my comfort zone and take mostly color film and see how that goes. And of course, you have a different light, so you have to calculate all different angles, times of the day where you can work. Um, I still have no idea if actually something will come out of the films because in Brazil the sun is very close to Earth, so throughout the day it's almost impossible to photograph because the sunlight is very, very harsh. But with analog, it's always the risk. So let's see what happens. And of course, on the other hand, we have the concerns of traveling solo. You know, it's unfortunately obvious that traveling alone as a woman is not the best often, um, because you are more vulnerable for situations, dangerous situations, because there's always a lot of violence, abuse against women, and especially when you're traveling, when you try to be friendly and when you try to meet new people, there can be circumstances when you just find yourself in not in a very good situation, and there's also not so much you can do to avoid it, but it's more about, if this happens, how do you get out of this situation. I talk about this in my previous episode, so you can find more tips there. But as I already tried to explain in almost every episode, is that you have to really trust your intuition and train your intuition to know what are the circumstances you want to push yourself through, and the ones where you have to take a step back. I can give an example of the situations that I had in Brazil. It was during a shoot. I met two really wonderful women in Salvador, and I didn't want to shoot just like on the beach or just do the classical shots from Brazil, and I was just more curious of where how they live or where they live, and that I can photograph at their place. And Yeah, I got an address that was not in a safe neighborhood. It was actually in a favela. So I had to make the choice whether I go there as a foreigner or not, even though it's very, very highly not recommended to go. And I knew that I am going to a bad neighbor because when I tried to order an Uber, like three Ubers rejected me, um, because they didn't want to go to that area. Um, so I was really 50-50 on this one. I just tried to sense like, okay, is this a safe situation, or is this something that might really endanger me? So I thought like, okay, let me try to figure out a way how I can make it as safe as possible. So going early in the morning, have video calls with the models, and this reassured me that it's gonna be okay, that we go together with an Uber, that we arrive to the apartment and we go straight to the apartment, we shoot there, then I do the same on the way back. Of course it came with like certain hiccups. So when I arrived back home safe, I decided that it was good to do it, to push myself in this direction, that I could see it and experience the place. But at the same time, I knew that I don't want to push it anymore, and I'm not gonna go again, because I felt that somebody up there is protecting me, and I don't want to meddle with this anymore and just be like, okay, this was my shot. I managed, and this is over. But I did felt my intuition very strongly that I should do it, so I just went with it, even though the statistics and information on Google wasn't the best when it came to this neighborhood. And the other situation, which was not not a good experience, was that I got referred to a friend of a friend of a friend, this kind of situation. And I was really open, it was on the second day. I feel like I'm always cursed on the second day of my travels, because always something very strange or dangerous happens on the second day. It's like it shocks you, and then the rest of the trip will be fine. But I decided to meet this person in a bar, and he picked me up with a car, and I was like, okay, it should be safe. It's via somebody. And already in the car, my stomach was like, something is a bit off. But I just went with it, and the person kept repeating, oh, you're super safe with me, you're really safe. And when he kept saying this, I suddenly started to feel really unsafe, because why do you have to say this? Or am I supposed to wait for something dangerous to happen, or what? And in the bar, this person was, I don't know, okay for like half an hour. We were watching a concert, and I asked some questions about his life and what he's doing, and whatever. And then he went to smoke outside, and when he came back, he started to act really strange and very offensive. um, so I already felt like, okay, this is a situation that I wanna get out of. And it's always good to have like an emergency contact in the place where you're going. By emergency contact in this case, I don't mean the police, but somebody to send your location to in case something is not good. So I did that, and I immediately called an Uber, and I said, hey man, I'm feeling really uncomfortable by your presence, so I'm gonna go. And this person just kept insisting like joining the Uber with me. So I just tried to escape the place, run away, and get into that damn Uber and disappear from this situation. I was lucky that everything was okay, but it was an uncomfortable moment because it scares you for the next days, because you become more alert, and you put a little barrier in front of yourself. So once the intuition was there from the start to back off, maybe I should have like already step out of the situation earlier and don't wait too long. So once you already feel that from the start something is strange, just try to already think about escape situation, because your intuition is probably right, as it was with me. And um, yeah, I mean, it's hard to give advice to stay safe, because you can never expect what somebody is gonna do or what are their intentions, but just try to figure out ways how to get safe out of unsafe situations. And another concern, or like a smaller concern, let's say, um, of traveling alone, is that sometimes it can feel a bit lonely when you have certain days when you don't manage to find anybody to hang out with. Or like for instance, Brazil in the city is not really a place you would walk on the street or alone by yourself. So sometimes I felt like a little bit, not lonely, but that I want to do something outside, but I felt a little bit scared to do it just by my own. But I try to redirect the energy that, okay, maybe I'm not outside, so what else can I do? But instead, you can also focus on reconnect back with your friends or family back home, write down some impressions, send voice notes, call, and in that way you get back on track, or maybe you get inspired how to reapproach people. Or yes, I had this moment there a little bit, and then I thought about other people that I know in the area, and I was like, oh, I actually forgot to write to them. So suddenly you activate something else, and new things come out of this. So these emotional up and downs can happen, but it's okay. You have maybe have like 1 or 2 days like this, and then you shake it off, and everything's fine, and then you're like, oh, it's actually perfect. So this is just like a tiny concern that can be. And as when it comes to making new work, um, this is something, at least for me, because I went to Brazil during the carnival period. So even before the carnival actually started, there was a lot of events happening, and because everything is new, the environment and the language, there's a lot of people. You get like easily overstimulated, especially in crowds, because you have to take care of so many things, um, trying to connect with people, trying to look for moments to photograph, trying to keep yourself secure, not get your stuff stolen. Then there's a lot of music, then there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of heat. So I remember often in these events I get overstimulated like insanely for after like 2 hours, and I couldn't understand how people can do this like for 13 hours partying on the street in the heat. um, but it's good to know what are your boundaries or what are your limits. So I like this is the fact that I'm traveling alone, so I can decide, okay, it was now enough for me, so I can go close myself to my room with complete silence and no people. So you have like it's the same like the last point that I mentioned is this up and down in emotions and moods, because um, it's a lot for the senses, for the mind. um, Also, i I spoke like 3 languages every day, switching non-stop. So your brain gets so tired because you have to concentrate, especially when you don't speak the language so well. You're like working 200% in your brain, and it makes you really, really tired. So it's something to think about. Always before traveling, I try to be more in hermit mode, so I have a lot of energy for the trip. Um, and and yeah, I made up a list of tips that I can share with you. It's like very, very short. So first 2 days, just observe what people wear, how they walk, what they do on the streets, how they behave. And in Brazil, I noticed that people were wearing very colorful clothes. That they were often singing or humming a song, or they were walking very confidently. They would wear like also almost beach wear if it was nice weather. So it's like you become disparate because in order to stay safe and in order to immerse yourself into a new environment, you kind of have to mirror this. So you have to copy this. So I started to wear really colorful clothes. I would just like hum a melody when I was walking, and it did change the way people would look at me, or the way they would think that I belong more to the place just because I do these little things like other people are doing in the city. And of course, learn some phrases in the language because you will need them, especially like for Uber, for I don't know, asking for directions for some food. um, just some keywords and key sentences. I also learned how to say if I can take a picture, and just to help you get closer to people, and that they see that you are actually making an effort. And in terms of safety, or what I did was that I put money in my socks. If I wear open shoes, then I put them either in my underwear, or there's in Brazil they sold this bag that you put underneath your skirt or shorts, and it's like invisible for people, so only you can put your card ID or whatever, and then you have it there. So that's very, very useful also for flying, because if you travel alone and then you leave your bag unattended, it's always useful to have a have the money somewhere safe. And actually, my French teacher recommended me to put money in a sanitary pad. So that's a tip for women, because people will not search for it there. And um, another, like a more practical tip: always have wet wipes with you. You never know. Because sometimes you get in a situation where like transport stops working, or you're in a transit, or like the flight doesn't go, or you're stuck somewhere. And I'm telling you, wet wipes will save you, because they can also function as a momentary shower that you might need very much. So I always carry those with me, because I think they're very, very essential. Very essential. And um, apart from money, wet wipes also have an emergency number and address just written on a small piece of paper. You can again have it in your underwear, little pocket, or sock. Just in case somebody steals your phone, you know how to get back to a safe place, or you know who to contact, because you don't probably remember the phone number of your emergency contact in the place. Um, Another thing is, bring a lot of medicine. I know that every time I travel, I either get a cold from the plane, or my stomach gets weird from the change of diet. You never know what's gonna happen. So just carry, like, you know yourself. So if you have something that keeps repeating, or have some basic medicine, always with you, because sometimes it can be difficult to arrange that in the place. And also I noticed that sometimes the local medicine doesn't work for my body because I'm used to something else. So that can also save you and make your trip a little bit more easier if something medically happens. And in terms of mindset, don't expect people to adjust to you. You are the one who has to adjust themselves to the new place, in terms of behavior, in terms of language, and in terms of um, yeah, your openness towards the place where you're going. I would recommend 100% not to go with any expectations, because once you have expectations, you kind of project them on the trip, and you either block yourself from the spontaneous things happening, or you're disappointed because your false expectations of the place don't meet your thoughts. And so if you don't go with any expectations, you can only be nicely surprised. And I would 100% recommend to travel solo at least once, or to try it, because you realize that you have certain fears, and those fears become way smaller when you eventually jump and go by yourself, and you just become more brave, more aware. It changes your perspective. You start to make connections with people in a different way. um, and as I already said in the beginning, you realize that sometimes language is not the only way how you can connect or communicate with people. And from every trip, if whether it's far or close, you learn something. And that's something that nobody can take away from you. You will just keep it with yourself and carry it on. And that's the beauty of solo traveling. So I hope it doesn't scare you, all the concerns, but it's more the benefits. Those are the important to focus on. So please go out there, explore, and make new work. I see you again soon. This was my 6th episode of Ammonia Void. Take care.